Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Footy featuring Toronto Hyper Football Club. I'm your host Shaheen, and as always, we have our co-host Fiona. Hey Fiona. Fiona is
Yeah.
super pumped today because she's been wanting our guest to be on the podcast for a while now, and she's been bugging me about it, and I've been wanting him to be on the podcast, and we've been trying to make this work. But he's a very, very busy man, but finally he's here. Hello, Mr. Mark Colvin. Welcome.
Thanks for the warm welcome, guys. I think I have dodged you for a couple months now, so excited to finally sit down and get on this. Thank you.
I'm glad you admitted that. It's been your fault, not mine.
It
Yeah,
has been
Fiona?
your fault.
It's
We've
been
been
mine.
trying. I've been asking you since the summer. But
Yeah.
hey, we're here.
So there's two elephants in the room. Okay. The first one, by the time this podcast comes on, the game will be over. Real Madrid either has qualified to the next round of Champions League or they haven't. But either way, the game is in 2 hours, and I had to pour my tea in my Real Madrid mug and support. So Hala Madrid, let's hope Real Madrid can beat PSG and go to the next round, and then finally Mbappe can come in. But I'm not gonna bore everybody with that. I know Fiona is really excited and wants to talk about it, but we can't, Fiona.
So yeah, I know. We just had too much. I would have too much to say.
Exactly. The second elephant in the room is even though we are very excited to have Mark with us, we are also extremely sad because Mark is actually leaving the club. Unfortunately, it's a big loss. I guess you can say for us because Mark has been awesome ever since he's been at the club. I have actually when I joined the club, Mark also just joined the club. So we kind of both started at the same time in the OPDL program. So it's been a pleasure
Literally,
working
it
with you.
was literally identical. Our first days were the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
No, but
it's been a pleasure working with you, Mark. It's
thank
been
you.
fun. I've learned a lot from you. I really have. Your professionalism, your organization. I've always looked up to you, even though we had our conflicts on the field with the soccer balls at times.
Okay,
But
no, I had to be a part of that because every time we would practice at Michael Power, Mark would be like, "Hey, you have to go get our balls back," and I'm like, "But we have them." He's like, "No, he's going to steal your balls," and I was like, "But," and then I realized by like I don't know halfway through the season that Mark started writing his name on them. And then you started writing your teams on them, and then I would find random ones at Michael Power, and it was just like a war. I was like, okay, I need to
no,
just step away from
it
this.
was it wasn't a war. It was a friendly game. It was a friendly competition. I'm gonna call it that, right, Mark?
Yeah, hey, the players had their fun with it too. So I think it's all part of the fun for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. The question is, who's gonna get all your soccer balls now that you're moving on?
I think he'll take them with him.
Imagine he gets three extra luggages on the plane.
You're gonna see a picture of me on social media, and you're gonna see the green and white balls. Those
Dude, those
seven.
balls
Oh,
are so good though. Like I refuse to use any other ball when we practice. I'm like, these all so good. They're so good. I don't understand.
Yeah. Shout out to Macron. Our training balls this past season were top quality, really
yeah,
good.
yeah, good. All right, let's move on from the soccer ball conversation. So yeah, Mark, tell us a little bit about when you joined. I guess it was the same time as me, but tell us a little bit about that, your experience at the club briefly, and then we'll get going.
Yeah. So it seems like ages ago because so much has happened between then and now. But I joined the club in fall of 2019, well, with the intention of joining the high performance OPDL program, wanting to work with kind of the most committed top players in the region. So, and I think you had very similar aspirations, Shaheen. And it was really fantastic to join the club. I think what makes High Park special is that it's a big, large club that's been able to maintain that community feel, and that's something that I felt right away, and have hopefully been able to contribute towards throughout my time here. As far as just a bit of a background on my coaching career, which is I think it's everyone has a unique journey to get into coaching, and so actually as a teenager, I was an avid soccer player and played multiple other sports as well. But unfortunately, I experienced this very serious head injury that knocked me out of competitive sports. Doctors saying, okay, you're risking it. You got to focus on school, all of those tough conversations to have. And so I actually got into coaching quite early and really, I haven't looked back since. And at that moment in my life, it was very challenging because playing sports was at the center of my identity, and having to give that up at such a young age was difficult. But as they say, when one door closes, another one opens up for you. And so coaching has ultimately allowed me to continue to express my passion for soccer, right? And really, just after getting into coaching, I've always found tremendous joy and fulfillment in working and mentoring young people. And by helping young athletes to grow and shape their own identities. I think it's really rewarding, and that's really now it's 13, 14 years later, and I'm still doing it and enjoying it as well. So
Yeah, now that you touched on a few great things, I'm sorry about your injury. I didn't even know that. I think you had briefly mentioned it to me, but maybe I had forgotten. But yeah, that does suck. But now we have a great coach in our hands, and I think Fiona can speak to that because Fiona not only worked alongside you, but you also coached Fiona on the U21 team. So Fiona, talk to us about it.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I came into U21 being like, oh, I just want to, like hang out with my girls that I haven't played with in like over a year, because we were like out of U18, so it was just like whatever. It's like after school, we didn't want to play for our universities, whatever. I just want to play with them. I don't want to play with the younger age groups. That was like, it was like a very split divide between like the 02s, 03s, 04s, whatever. Then Mr. Mark came in, and basically he took those three teams and just like squished them together and was like, you know what? It's unacceptable to be like separating yourselves, cliquey, whatever. And we eventually, like, now we all love each other, but it took a while to get there. And I think that like Mark instilled kind of like a very competitive nature in the team. I think I like especially benefited from. Like, Mark has been a huge part of my development. Like, I thought like post high school, I was like, I don't really want to like learn anymore. I don't know how much I can learn, whatever. And then Mark came in, and I ended up learning and progressing so much. Like, we were having a conversation with Elkin yesterday or the other day, and I was joking, and I was like, most improved player right here, because we were talking about another player. And Elkin was like, no, like, you have improved so much. And it was because of the confidence. And I don't know how Mark did this, but I went from like being scared of everything to like being scared of nothing. And it was like, what? Like,
Is that true, Mark?
I don't.
Is that true, Mark?
This is, I just spoke about why I love coaching, and when you hear an athlete and hearing that you've had a positive impact on them, it fills your heart with joy. So I mean, I think any development, and I think Fiona speaking to the fact that like development doesn't just stop when your youth career stops, is that we can continue to develop and grow as in every facet of our lives, not just from a soccer perspective. If you're open-minded and your willingness to listen to new ideas is there. And so I think that's what it comes down to is I was fortunate to start with the U21, which was several groups that came together right after the first COVID lockdown, like the big lockdown. And we had a group of athletes that were incredibly open-minded and wanted to continue to learn and improve. And then also a group that had really good culture, good people, very friendly, humble group. And I think we just had the kind of the right ingredients to put together a great environment. So I think it speaks to, I think I'm happy to hear I've had a good impact, but I think it's just as much a reflection on the athletes as well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, Fiona is not just saying this because you're on the podcast now. She's mentioned it to me as well outside of the podcast, how much of a positive impact you've had on the girls and on the team. And that's great. Like, as a coach, when you hear players saying you've had some sort of positive impact in their lives or in their playing careers, it's that good feeling, right? This is why we do it, and it makes you realize you're doing something right, even though you're not perfect and you make mistakes along the way. But yeah, it's great to hear. You touched on something, and I wanted to go back to this. Like, as soon as we started and a few months in, the pandemic hit, and that was a big one. I wanted to see how that affected you, because it affected everybody, obviously. But as a coach, how did that affect you and your coaching journey, on your own and also within Hyde Park?
That's a tough question, Shaheen, because the pandemic affected all our lives in such a in such a big way, right? I guess the first piece is not taking for granted everything that we have. So the best example is as a coach, not taking for granted the ability to be on field, all the equipment, the facilities that we have access to help the athletes improve, where we were stuck behind a screen and trying to get creative and trying to ultimately throw together weeks worth of sessions just to keep the athletes engaged and active and still expressing their passion for soccer in any way we could. So I think once we got back onto the field, I felt just incredibly grateful for everything that I had and those opportunities. And so if we look at a positive that we can take from our experience with the pandemic, which has been an extremely negative experience, is just not taking for granted the opportunities that we have, that every single time we step out on the pitch, like right now, we're stepping onto the pitch for the week's worth of sessions. Or I know for Shaheen, your OPDL group on the weekend, is we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We really don't. And so it means the coaches and players have to take full advantage of that opportunity and enjoy the experience and get the most out of that opportunity to develop. So for me, it's about not taking things for granted. And then maybe a second point to that is just being creative and integrating technology into the coaching or youth development environment. I think I'm still using Zoom for meetings with athletes because it's just so convenient. And then also using different digital tools and integrating it into our on-field practice. And so I do think there's been some positives that we can take from our experiences being locked down in the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody at the club, we were able to adapt, work together, and make the best out of it. A few good things came out of it for sure. But I completely agree with you that, things that we took for granted, like coaching multiple teams is not easy. You're coaching on the field on the weekends. You don't have a lot of family time at times. Now I'm speaking for myself, but when we were away from that for so long, I missed it. I missed it at all. And, there was nothing. I just wanted to get back on the field and be with my players and train them and work towards our goals and objectives and then go play games. So all that, hopefully nothing like that happens again and we can manage to stay on the field for the rest of life. But yeah, it was interesting. It was a very interesting experience.
I think it affected everybody differently, but I think it also affected everybody in like the worst way possible. But it taught me like just to kind of live life more in the moment and less about like the future and thinking about like, oh, what's going to happen? What's the worst possible case scenario? Like you just kind of have to take everything you're doing and do it in the moment and just soak everything in, because you never know what's going to happen next. Like the entire time, like during the pandemic, I was like, I just have to go out, play this game. Next week, I might not even have a game, but you know what? It is what it is. And I'm just going to live life however I want now.
Yeah. Mark, apart from coaching, obviously at the club, you had a few other roles. You were doing the marketing role for a while for the club. You were doing a great job. And also more recently, you were in charge of the university prep program, which I kind of want to briefly go into it, because even though you're physically leaving the club and you're moving on, but you're still going to be involved, if I'm not wrong, with the university prep program. So if you want to just speak to that briefly.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up, Shaheen. So The club introduced just this past year a brand new university prep program. And basically what that program is focused on is giving our senior youth athletes, so U16 to U18 athletes, the resources that they need in order to better navigate the recruitment process for collegiate athletics. Okay, and the program is actually quite unique because instead of being, for example, you'll have these showcase teams where there's a team is put together of 15 to 18 players and they go around showcasing themselves on field. Instead of that sort of setup, our university prep program is set up as a off-field mentorship. And so players from all different teams in our club, male and female and OPDL and competitive, so all players are welcome. And really it's intended to be a mentorship to give each one of those athletes a better understanding of the recruitment process, the tools they need, things like a player CV, highlight video, those sort of tools, and then obviously assistance in helping them get recruited. And so one of the huge benefits of the program is it's brought together athletes from many different teams. And those athletes have been able to come together, share their own experiences, get to know each other, and then ultimately help each other when it comes to the recruitment process. And so we are just finishing off right now our first, we're calling it our cohorts. And I think the athletes have really gotten a lot out of the program, and we're going to continue to innovate and continue to evolve the program as we get feedback from those athletes. And we're going to continue to have cohort after cohorts moving forward. So all athletes in the club, U16 to U18, no matter what level they're playing at, have this this as a resource and an opportunity. And I've really enjoyed working with athletes from across the teams that are all they're very talented players within the club, some of the most talented players in the club, and then players with so much ambition that they want to test and compete at the next level. And hopefully this program is helping them get closer to that, to those dreams and aspirations.
That's amazing. And how long is this program? And is it a like once a year type of thing? When is the next cohort? If you want to just, for people maybe that missed it.
Yep. And so we're planning our next cohort in the fall, in the fall time. And so we'll have two cohorts, one in the fall, one in winter of, so fall 2022 and then winter 2023. And our program, our next cohort, the program runs for about 3 months duration. It's a 3-month mentorship that we go through the kind of the entire program.
And they directly work with yourself, and you have one-on-one sessions with them. And is that the format, I guess?
Yeah, so it's a combined format. So we do throughout a month, we'll do a couple seminars where it's going to be the entire group getting information shared. We have guest speakers that come in. So those are current and former youth sports and NCAA athletes, as well as current coaches in both the NCAA and youth sports. And then in addition, we also do a one-on-one. So at monthly, there's a one-on-one where it would be myself meeting individual with the athlete. And so by having different formats, we're able to distill different types of information and provide the athletes the support that they need, and ultimately just trying to do our best to help them give them the tools and information they need to navigate what's becoming a quite complex recruitment process, and it is difficult to navigate. And so to athletes listening to this call that are at the club, and even athletes from outside the club, we would welcome into the program as well. If you're an athlete that you see yourself excelling at a youth level and you want to explore what it would look like to compete at that next level, at the collegiate level, then I definitely encourage them to get in touch. And I'd love to jump on a call and just find out a little bit of background about them and see if our program would make sense and be a benefit to them.
That's amazing. I think there's a lot of value to this. Like you mentioned, the recruitment process and this whole process is so complicated and so intense. And to have some sort of mentors or to listen to coaches and or ex athletes to talk about it, I think there's a lot of value to it. I mean, I think Fiona can speak to this. Fiona, do you think did something like this exist when you were around that age, or would you? How much would this help you?
So I was
Really?
literally about to say, like, where was this when I was,
Yeah.
exiting my youth career or whatever? But it's like when I was at that age, it was such a like individualized thing. It's like it's in your hands and you have to figure it out. You have to get in touch with coaches, recruitment, blah, blah, blah. Like there was no extra assistance to be like, this is actually how the process works. Let me make it easier for you because it's so overwhelming. And if you're an athlete who like maybe doesn't think they're good enough to get like, onto a team wherever, it's like, well, then I'm not good enough. And it's like you need these people to like kind of push you and assist you and like get you to where you need to be in like the right spot. Like I like how now it's more of like a collective thing and it's like everybody can like work together and help these like kids like get into the schools because I didn't like how much pressure was put on us. It was like, do you want to play in university? And we were all like, I don't know. And then
Exactly. You don't even know. And I think a big part of the program has been like literally a big chunk is combating misconceptions. And I think the program, because and the pandemic has actually played a big role in this, is that a lot of recruitment has moved online into digital spaces. And so I'll just give you an example is if there might be a team of 18 players that maybe we'll say they play at an OPDL level, and two of them are interested in going to NCAA schools in Florida. And so what would the team do is you'd fly 18 players down to Florida to do a showcase there. And really, when you come down to it, that's kind of a waste of resources and time if only two players in the team are actually interested in those opportunities. And so right now, it'd be much easier for those two athletes that are interested to make the appropriate connections online. And then maybe they go to an ID camp that the target schools that they're interested in are running in Florida. Again, it's just an example of that kind of showcase team mentality. That's one way to do it. But instead, we're taking a more targeted approach and a more individualized approach to the recruitment process. And the first cohort, I think, has been really successful. And athletes have already started to make some really good connections. So definitely, it's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of information for athletes to consume. And again, the intention of the program is to just make that process easier or a little bit easier for the athletes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Amazing. Again, this is all thanks to you, a big part of it, Mark. So you've done a lot of, again, I'm repeating myself, but you've done a lot of good stuff at the club, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to share the field with you. Hopefully, if you get
wipe away the tears, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't show my emotions a lot, so it only happens once in a blue moon. So yeah. Anyways, let's not make it sad. You wanted to discuss a few things or debate a few things because we've always had this discussion, but it has never been complete and formal or a proper argument. Talk to me, Mark. What did you want to talk about?
So let's have it in front of a large audience.
Yeah, let's do it. Mark, so just a quick background. Mark has always mentioned to me that he's not about this relegation promotion style. It's too traditional and it has to be more of a playoff thing. And I've always disagreed. The main reason for it is because maybe it's kind of selfish, but I personally, just my personality, I don't like change. So just why change it, if it's working, why change it? But
a traditionalist. And so I think the first debate we were having is the playoffs in football debate. So it's what matters more, being the winner of the season or being the winner of playoffs. And so if we were to look at the kind of the top leagues, football leagues in Europe, the champion is determined by the league table, right?
Yes.
And Shaheen, you are
to
a
me,
huge supporter of that, right?
yes, because it requires a team to be consistent throughout the whole season, right? It's not that, oh, you're good for a little, because a lot happens during the season. Injuries happen. Teams go through good form, bad form. So this is judging. The champion is identified throughout a whole season after basically every team goes through all these things during the season. So I think it's the most fair and exciting way to identify who the champion should be. But I'm open to listening to your points.
And I understand, Shaheen, that your traditional views, your Eurocentric
It's not
views,
traditional. It's not
They
traditional.
are though, because
but
it's what's been being done for this long. That's why it's traditional. You're like, I'm open-minded. I don't think you are. Mm-mm.
in my mind, I think championships should be decided by playoffs, like plain and simple, Shaheen. Because for me, championships aren't just about performance. It's about performance under pressure, the best versus the best with everything on the line. So sustained performance over the course of a season, which is what you're measuring with the league table, for me, that's not a championship performance. And so using the league table, so where you end up landing in the league in the league table, it should impact the seeding, right? So if you finish higher, then you should be given an advantage. Maybe it's a bye, maybe it's a home field advantage, but ultimately, I want to see the top teams in the league compete in some form of a knockout.
But we have that. We have the Champions League in every continent that exists. So I think football, actually soccer, whatever I call it football, but I think we have that. We have what I'm saying, the more traditional, if you want to call it, way, which takes into account the consistency of a team, which is so important. A team of a number of players should be consistent and performing at a high level consistently throughout a season. And then the top 3, 4, depending on the league, get selected and compete against one another in the Champions League format. So we have that. So to be honest, I think we're both maybe.
But Shaheen, I'm going to pose a question back to you. Is like, which 2 football events are the biggest in the world? What 2 events?
Okay, I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing. You want me to say the World Cup and the Champions League?
I would agree with you. Shaheen.
Yeah.
And for me, though, those 2 most popular, exciting competitions have a round robin, which we could equate to a league table, and then they've got a knockout round, which is a form of a playoffs. And to be honest, those are the 2 most exciting events for a reason, because the format allows for the best versus best. All the pressure is on in those games, and it creates the biggest, most memorable moments in football history, right?
So let me pose a question to you, and Fiona, feel free to jump in, because I feel like we're just gonna go back and forth here, and you're just
yes, I know.
like, why am I here? But let me ask you this question. I don't know if you know, I'm pretty sure you know about it, but are you saying Leicester City winning the Premier League a few years back was not exciting and beautiful? To me, that's more beautiful than, again, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Real Madrid winning the Champions League 3 years in a row, because of they're not considered one of the best teams in the Premier League. They had just gone to the Premier League from the Championship, from second division, and through consistency throughout the season, they were able to win probably the best become the champions in the most competitive league in the world. So I think it depends on how you look at it.
I think Shaheen, I think that's a fair point, that it would be a shame that Leicester City they have that sort of performance in the league table, and then they get knocked out in the playoffs, and then maybe that season is all for nothing and not recognized as much. So I definitely see that point for sure. That's fair.
All right. You want to pick the winner here, Fiona? I'm joking.
Who do I
Or
agree with more?
but like the one thing again, and like I think that's a great point though, is the notion, and MLS in North America is used always here, is kind of kind of getting the negative energy that playoffs, it's not actual football, it's just North American sports. But playoffs are used across the world. Mexico and South America and Brazil, playoffs are a big part. And even if you look at the championship, how they determine who's promoted, they use a playoff format. So I do think that playoffs are a part of football across the entire world, across all different competitions, and that maybe like you said, maybe playoffs are intended for some formats, and then the league table should be intended for others. And maybe the way it is set up right now actually makes the most sense.
That's my point. That's my point, right? Because it
But
allows.
playoffs still are more exciting. You have to agree with me on that point.
No, I never questioned that. I think playoffs are exciting. I think the World Cup is the biggest event in the world, and after that, I think the Champions League. I completely agree with you. Okay, but I also think there's a beauty in the way the leagues, the promotion, the relegation, the fight for relegation in the last few games of the season, the fight for the championship. I think there's a certain traditional. I can't believe I keep repeating this word now. A beauty in it. And to be honest, again, maybe this goes back to my personality, but I like the way it is set up because it has both. So I think let's not touch it, Mark. But I would like to hear the listeners' opinion on this. Actually, maybe we can bring some people in and see what they think. No
Everybody
comments.
relax now. Everybody, are we okay?
Let's move on to the next intense topic. The next one was we were talking about the financial fair play in football. Again, this exists. I don't think it's very fair, but there is some sort of financial fair play in football. But one thing I found interesting that you put was that there should be a cap, which is in sports like hockey that exists, and I think it does make it a bit more fair and more entertaining, maybe. Whereas in football, if you have a lot of money, you can get away with it. You can play around the rules a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think this is a very interesting debate, especially in football today. For example, you see Newcastle, where a new owner can come in and then will completely change the script of the club. And so for me, and I think we've spoken about this before, is I think that a spending cap or controlling the disparity in talent, and it's the wages is ultimately what causes it, would lead to a higher quality of competition. And for me, I prefer a high quality level of competition as opposed to watching just a high level of football where you see like a Real Madrid beating up on a minnow, where maybe you see again all the top 11 players on the pitch all are on Real Madrid. They obviously are able to dominate play, but for me, that's not good competition. And so I love to see quality competition. I want to see a home team fighting for 3 points. I don't really enjoy watching if Real Madrid is playing away at say Granada, like a small club. Is for me, I hate seeing the Granada park the bus for 90 minutes at home. That's to me, that's not the quality of football is not worth the trade-off of quality of competition. So I would be supportive, just like you said, is financial fair play going a step further, and again taking on a bit more North American format where there would be a cap and more parity with the quality of players across the league.
You know what? I kind of agree with you on this topic. I really do. I think when as you mentioned, the quality of competition, maybe over the quality of football, where you have just the best players on one team, dominating not so big clubs. So I agree with you, but it's going to be interesting to see if your view changes on any of these once you actually move to Qatar. Should we give it away? Should we tell the audience where you're moving? Mark, do you want to do it?
Yeah, no. As we mentioned earlier that I was leaving the club, but it's because I'm moving abroad. I'm moving moving over to Sweden in Europe.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see if you still support the North American view on all of this.
He's gonna come over and like take all his North American views. Be like, hey guys, maybe this is what we should do.
Yeah. No, knowing Mark, I think he's gonna stick to his ideas and philosophy. Anything from you, Fiona, before we move on to our last few topics? No.
No, I just I like listening to you guys talk about it. It's very like, whoa, that's a lot I never thought about. But I don't know. I see both sides for everything because I'm very open-minded about it. But I don't know. It's nice to like have change. You know, sometimes it's like, why do we have to stay stuck in the same thing all the time? How is a sport ever going to evolve if you're stuck in like these old ways of doing things?
Little by little. It doesn't have to be a major change every time.
No, but I think that's a fair point, is that just saying like a salary cap or more parity across the league, like exploring it as an opportunity in the top leagues in Europe, they should be at least open to exploring it, as opposed to just shutting it out because it's changed. And so I see that point. It's at least consider it, and maybe you do a test run in a second or third division, right?
Yeah. And I actually think it will be beneficial to players too, because nowadays this happens all the time where players all of a sudden is considered a player with a lot of potential at a very young age. All of a sudden they're making loads of money, and then zoom, they don't have to work so hard anymore because they've got all this money. So I think it could help a lot of issues. Moving on to the next topic, Fiona. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. You should be. But the men's.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're about to say. I watch football. Okay.
No, but do you watch men's football? Arsenal doesn't count. Fiona.
I've been watching Barcelona play. I've been watching not Real Madrid because I don't like Real Madrid. PSG, a little bit.
Are you attacking? Is this an attack against me today? What's happening?
Maybe a little bit.
Barcelona, PSG.
Maybe just a little bit.
Okay, so do you think Canadian national team, men's national team, is going to qualify for the World Cup in the next game?
I thought they already did, though.
See, this is
what Wait, no. Wait, I thought the last game was that not the?
No. I think the next game, if they win, they're qualified.
Statistically, I think they're pretty close.
That's what I'm saying. Close. I thought it was like very much there.
It's harder to not qualify at this point. Let's just put it that way. But honestly, I think I truly believe this. I think Canada could be. There's always every year, every World Cup, there's a surprise. One team just comes out of nowhere and like does really well. I think Canada could be that team in the next World Cup, but. Yeah, hopefully. Is it March 27th against Jamaica? I think March 27th.
The 23rd.
No, it's the 27th.
It's the 27th, Mark. Get your facts
because I know because I'm trying to get tickets.
Yeah. March 27th. Hopefully Canada officially makes it to the World Cup. So Iran has already made it. Obviously, I'm from Iran originally.
Iran? No, they're qualifying.
They haven't lost. They didn't lose.
They're doing well. And just to your point about Canada, and Canada not only making the World Cup but making an impact there. I do think if even like top clubs top countries look at Canada's roster with like dynamic attacking threats. And I think you get a bit nervous. I definitely think that Canada is a team that can strike fear into any team in world football. Just because of the physical tools of our attackers.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think defensively, out of possession, I think we are very organized. We're very compact, and we defend as a true unit. I really like our defensive work as well. So I think Canada could be the exciting, a little not so little country, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. But who do you guys think is gonna actually win the tournament? Fiona?
I don't know.
Make a guess.
There's so many potentials.
This is a very early prediction. I only think a handful of teams have actually formally qualified, even, right?
Yes, I don't even know who's actually qualified.
That's how Portugal qualifies. That'd be That'll be big, just because of the quality of the players they have. There's so many good players on that team. If they don't make it, it sucks not to see all those great players play in the best tournament.
So for me, watching Senegal play in the African Cup of Nations, I think they've got a number of players playing at a high level. I think we talk about teams that could be that standout performer at the tournament. I think Senegal is a team to look at, but then also I think England. The number of quality young players that are coming up through the system. I think the team looked really good at the Euros, and I think they're gonna have to break through at some points. And I think they've got the roster right now, the right leadership. That might be the time. I also like Belgium too. Belgium's in qualifying has been pretty dangerous as well.
Yeah. But again, Mark, I can't believe I agree with you. I think because when you look at teams eventually becoming champions, whether it's the World Cup or the Champions League or whatever, in any competition, usually they have to go through a hardship. Usually there's a pattern. They lose finals, they go through hardships, there's disappointments, and then they grow from it, and then they come back and win it. This happens all the time. I swear to God, I'm not just making it up.
It's like a movie.
Yeah. And I think England has finally gone through that. And not only they have that, but they also have now, it's not just potential. There's experience and quality. And I think just the level of the Premier League in the past couple of years, the quality of coaching with Pep Guardiola in there, I think it has added a lot to the country in football terms. And I think England has the highest chance. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually end up winning.
I agree in the Premier League, the level of Premier League, but also they've got a number of young players that have gone abroad, which is, if we look at previous England squads, it was usually
they were all
domestic. And so I think those experiences of going over Sancho, again, great example. I think adds a lot to the team and the experiences of the players as well. So I love to see that.
Yeah. So I think England will win. Iran will go far. I believe in Iran.
Runners up?
No, not that far.
Maybe.
Iran actually has never qualified to the next round. They've always been eliminated in the group phase. But I think Canada could be that surprise, the X factor. But Fiona, come on, give us a country. Just make a guess. I don't know. Just say something. We're not gonna end the show until you.
I say something.
Imagine she ends up being right.
I don't know. Should I just make a random guess, and then we can come back later? Okay, wait. I have two.
Okay, good.
Oh wait, maybe one. I don't know, guys. This is actually difficult for me. Okay,
Mark has a flight to catch.
Far. I think Canada can go very far. Do I think they're gonna win? I have hope, but it's they've never competed in this before. Let's get our hopes up, but it's fine if they don't. I don't know, maybe maybe Argentina or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I always usually root for Italy, but that's because I grew up in Little Italy. So
well, Italy also hasn't made it qualified yet.
I know. I don't even know who else is qualified.
I think they're actually going to have to face Portugal in one of those two. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be tough. But they won the Euros, so you never know. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. I'm all done here. Mark, if you have anything to add, as your final words, as a member of the Toronto High Power Football Club, this was fun, Shaheen. I mean, maybe I'll have to come on. Maybe make it a yearly thing. Come on next year. I would love that. 100%, for sure. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, share the podcast, and I guess we'll see everybody next time. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, guys. Take care.